Good evening, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It is July 27th, 2017, and we're underway at 7 p.m. To start our agenda, we're going to have the invocation, and tonight that will be handled by Councilmember Villanueva, and then we'll follow that with the pledge to the American and Texas flag. So if you would please stand for the invocation and pledges.
Heavenly Father, we gather here tonight to worship you and give thanks. We appreciate the gifts bestowed on each and every one in attendance tonight and pray for peace and good health. Let us give thanks to such a generous and loving God for life and abundant blessings. Special prayers go out to Alex Blue's family and in this time of loss. Thank you.
Amen. Was that it? Yes. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next up we have our, what we call our open session, or citizens to be heard. Tonight we have two of our citizens who have signed up to speak. And so first up, just to refresh you on the general rules for this, you have 3 minutes to speak, and your time will start once you've stated your name and your address. So the first one up is Vicky Cade Arredondo. Welcome tonight, and again, state your name and address, and you've got 3 minutes then.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Vicky Cade Arredondo at 10406 Lazy F Trail, and just here tonight to introduce myself to you, the City Council, and I'm looking forward very much to moving back into our home once the renovations are complete. Just wanted to let you know that I'm also a musician, and playing for a church currently, Hope Lutheran Church, and I've been there like 7 years. Before that, I was church organist at Northwood Presbyterian, and before that, for 5 years, I was church organist at House of Prayer. So, you know, we're going to be going to the Catholic Church here in Helotes, and we'll be able to go on Saturdays, and I'll still be able to play for church on Sundays at Hope. And so I just wanted to be here to introduce myself. I'm Jerry Arredondo's wife, and again, we're looking forward to moving back to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, could you make sure that mic is on?
It is, it's just high
Is it?
up.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you, Vicki. Okay, next up, we have Jerry Arredondo. Hey, Jerry, if you would, just pull the mic down where we can hear you well, okay?
I kind of talk a little loud, so hopefully I'll work
Okay.
through this.
Name and address.
Name, Jerry Arredondo, address 10406 Lazy F Trail. And I wanted to, some of y'all I do know, some I do not know, but I've been a citizen and resident of Helotes for 46 years. Purchased our house in 1971. And once we had the hailstorm of April of 2016, we then started remodeling our house. Today we have an issue that relates to a carport and the setbacks. And I know y'all are going to be discussing that, but more than anything else, I wanted to give y'all a copy of my resume. And the purpose of my resume, quite frankly, is to kind of reintroduce myself to y'all, because recently, I say recently, about 2 years ago, that I joined St. Peter, St. Joseph Children's Home, which they required me to put a resume together. And so most resumes you see are all professional work. Mine's probably 20% professional work and 80% civic duty. And of course, I used to be a municipal judge here in Helotes also. But if I could just pass this out so y'all could have.
If you would, give it to Grace, and she'll log it in, and then she'll get it down to us. Thanks.
Okay, so that way, and you notice, like, even when O'Connor High School opened up, they didn't have a place for a dance studio, so my backyard, my back patio became the first dance studio for O'Connor High School. I was also on the executive committee for Northside Independent School District, the strategic planning for Edgewood School District, currently on the scholarship committee at Central Catholic High School, and former board member of the Alumni Association at St. Mary's University. And when we talk about the carport, I just wanted to pass out some pictures. Y'all will probably look at these, and no reason to go into all these details today for myself with y'all, because when y'all go to closed session, I would ask y'all to look closely at the pictures. Our carport faces specifically a fence that is 18 feet from the street, and our carport is from the street to the carport 42 feet. And according to the code, that would meet code based on the street setback, okay? In addition to that, our property has no deed restrictions, nor does it have any setbacks. We got all that verified by Stewart Title Company and had an engineering company come out and double check and make sure that whatever we said was accurate and proved the no setbacks and no deed restrictions. So all that is something that y'all do have, and I think your attorneys have all that. All we want to do is get back into our home, move back to Helotes, like we've been for forever and ever, okay? And have a nice, safe and home and a pleasant environment, which we've enjoyed for many, many years. Unfortunately, my wife passed away in the house, my first wife of 42 years, 5 years ago. And Vicki and I now have married, and she now looks forward to joining me and living together in our community.
Okay, that's your 3 minutes, Jerry. If you would, give your pictures to Grace again, and we appreciate your comments. Next up, we have our consent agenda. And there's one item on it with 3 parts, A, B, and C. And our consent agenda is intended to just be handled as routine business by council, but if you guys have any questions or would like to have all of it or a section pulled, then we'll go from there. Oh, it's actually items 3 through 5. So are there any requests to have items 3 through 5, any of those items pull for discussion, or do you have any questions on 3 through 5?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on 5, please.
Okay.
What exactly are we, if we approve this agenda item, what is this variance deferral for? Is there some type of business going in there, or is this to get it ready, or why is there a variance deferral request?
Yeah, it's under development. Rick can give you a quick synopsis of this, but...
Sorry, I didn't call you earlier, but...
But the right-of-way variance is typical to developments we've done in the past, and so are the deferrals for the traffic impact analysis and the stormwater detention. Rick, you have a quick question, a quick answer for that?
The variance from TxDOT right-of-way dedication, again, as the mayor said, was standard. They're not requiring the 20 feet along Bandera Road. They are requiring footage along Hausman Road, and it will be included in the plat, which is forthcoming. The deferrals for both the stormwater detention and traffic impact analysis, that's a deferral because they don't know what is going on that lot yet. And so prior to the issuance of a building permit is when we would require the completion of the TIA and the stormwater management plan.
Okay.
So the short answer is they don't know what's going on in the lot yet, but they are wanting to plat it. And so we would prefer them defer that until they know what's going to be developed on that property, because that impacts the detention and the size of the detention ponds, all those sorts of things.
So this is just letting them know that that requirement is not being done away with.
So-
It's just being deferred.
So B and C would come back to council? Is that correct?
The stormwater management plan and the TIA go directly to council.
Okay.
On the next Tuesday, P and Z will look at the plat for BBVA Compass Bank. But again, typically all of these things sort of travel together. Right now, they're just wanting to plat. But again, until they know what the development will be, they really can't do the stormwater management plan or the TIA.
Okay, that's all I had.
So this just allows them to go ahead with that plating process. Okay, any other questions on that? Then I would look for a motion to approve consent agenda items 3 through 5, 5 including subsections A, B, and C.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve consent agenda items 3 through 5, including A, B, and C.
Okay, we have a motion from Buys. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
That was you, Alex? And a second from Blue? So we have a motion from Buys, a second from Blue to approve consent agenda items 3 through 5, including 5, it's A, B, and C. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Items 3 through 5, A, B, and C are approved as consent agenda. Next, we have our individual items for consideration. First up is item 6, which we've already addressed part of this in our previous meeting. This is discussion and action to approve our submittal of the FEMA and Texas Division of Emergency Management Hazard Mitigation Grant applications. And Rick's going to quickly cover these and give you a review. He gave you a pretty good written review on the agenda item itself. So, Rick, if you want to go ahead and explain what you have.
During the last council meeting, council adopted or approved a resolution that would incorporate Helotis's partnership into the Bexar County Hazard Mitigation Plan. There were, I think, 20 some odd projects included within that, but these were the infrastructure projects dealing with flood, mainly with flood control and with some storm damage. They are the shelters, well, really the carports for the Public Works, Fire Department, and police departments. It also includes automated floodgates for Scenic Loop, which would be remotely operated. Paragon Road, it's really at Paragon and Indian Trail, and a drainage project there. The Cedar Trail, State Highway 16 drainage project, upsizing that culvert. The replacement of the Antonio Drive low water crossing with an improved one that could handle a larger rain event, and hydrologic and hydraulic, don't ask me what the difference is between those, study of Calabar Creek tributary project. And essentially what those studies would be, when we worked with San Antonio River Authority on doing a preliminary cost estimate and preliminary design for all of these projects, they were unable to determine what needed to be done through the neighborhoods of Beverly Hills, onto Doheny and through FM 1560. And so their recommendation was to do an additional study on what they call Calabar Creek tributary. All of these projects, there is a 25% match. So if we were to be awarded all of these projects, the total dollar amount would be $5,442,000. Of that, the feds would pay for $4.1 million, and we would be responsible for $1.3 million. There is no funding source yet identified to fund our 25% match. But it is, again, the federal government would pay for 75% and we would pay for 25%. I was asked today whether the project would be administered similar to what the TxDOT realignment project is, where essentially we pay them to do the administrative work, the grant work, which can be cumbersome, especially when dealing with federal grants. This is different in that the city would be completely responsible for administering the grants and also completing all phases of construction, including bidding. That's essentially it.
Thanks, Rick.
I have a question.
Okay, let's go ahead and get a motion in a second to open it for discussion. Before we-
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item number 6 as written.
Okay, we have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Buys. Okay, Cynthia, it's your motion, so.
Yeah, my question is regarding the 1.2 million, 25% that we would have to pay. I'm assuming this isn't going to all be like in 1 year. I mean, this will be spread out over, if we get awarded any of these, it's not going to be something that's going to come out of every, the budget all in 1 year.
I do not have an answer for that. If we were lucky enough to get all grants awarded to us at one time, we would be looking at a situation like that. I doubt that we will be awarded all of the projects. We would probably be lucky to just get one of these out of the 5 or 6 that we're applying for, or the 6 that we're applying for. But I can't
Yeah, that's true.
definitively tell you that we would not have a situation like that.
Okay.
We're fully not aware of the scoring process, but I know MPO projects, Metropolitan Planning Organization projects, and those that are funded through that source, federal and state dollars, there is a very intense scoring system that they go by. So as Rick says, we don't anticipate getting all 6 of these. We're just putting them in there and hoping for the best. And keep in mind, too, that all of these numbers are based on preliminary estimates on the design that we have right now. And so it would all come back to what the actual bids would be if and when we do any of these projects.
What is the timeline for them to give us an answer?
I would have to defer to Susan or Josh on that.
This should be by the end of the year, but they have to be turned in by the end of this year.
I guess the reason I'm asking the question is because we're coming upon our budget time, and I'm wondering if we're going to have to include our 25% in this year's budget.
I am not, unless the mayor directs me differently, before we present it to council, I have not included the 25% into next year's budget at this point.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
Okay. Bert, your second?
Okay, I think we did this at the last meeting, but I'd like to thank Josh and Susan, and I guess Rick also, for going through all this, because I think originally we had, 20 projects that we were looking at, something like that? Thank you very much for doing all that, again. How often can we put in for this? Is it yearly, biannually, or how does that work? Because like you're saying, we're probably, if we get 1 or 2, we'll be lucky enough. But can we apply again next year?
Yeah, it's my understanding that this is an annual call for projects, or obviously
It's
I'm
not?
wrong. Josh, why don't you step up and answer these questions then, please?
Typically, this is like the Metropolitan Planning Organization. It's whenever the funds are available, they'll go ahead and
So
put out
there's really no answer to
they'll
that.
put out a call for bids. So it's going to be a variable as far as I can tell from the way we've dealt before.
The funds that are available now are specifically for numbered disasters, 4272. It had to do with the hailstorm that came through. So when that came through, disaster area was declared, federal government made funds available. So once those funds are gone, they're gone. We could always use the same project for future
Gotcha.
opportunities, but for this one, it's a one-time deal.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay.
So you're suggesting that there is not an annual call for projects like there are in many grant programs?
All I know is this project is due to funding from that disaster. They increased the time.
I will tell you that there are other pots of FEMA money we did receive yesterday or the day before, and I looked at it a little bit, similar call for projects from the Texas Water Development Board. And so it's my hope that we can essentially use the same packet we have here and apply for those grant funds as well, essentially hedging our bets.
Yeah, if you recall, the 1560 realignment plan, we submitted that twice and actually asked TxDOT to submit it also for us back in 2012, I believe, and they did, and that was the one that the MPO scored highest, and that's why we're getting that. And then also, we submitted the bridge down here on 1560, the MPO. It did not score high enough in that call for projects, so they're funding that through discretionary funds with an agreement with us. And so, as Josh said, it's whenever the money becomes available and there's a large enough pot, they will put out a call for projects, and then they'll score accordingly, and they'll award those projects. Okay, Ed, any comments from you?
No, I think we should go through with this, and it makes total sense. And like Rick said, if we have another pool of funds to go to, we should try them all, and hedge the bet. Thanks.
Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only question was, the funds that we borrowed in our last certificate, I thought I recall there being something about the Bandera Road Cedar Trail Drainage Project being a part of that process, and I know we had a lot of things that got put in and taken out and talked about, and I didn't know if some of that money which has not been spent and is sitting in the accounts now, whether or not that was part and could be used for funding of this, specifically if they were already listed. Can you address that, Rick? That was my only other question. Thank you.
Yes, sir, they can be used as long as they were specifically identified in the certificate of obligation issuance. And the Cedar Trail project was included in that issuance.
Okay.
We're also the mayor instructed us to start looking at whether, because we will have leftover monies, what we can do with those funds. And so we will be getting with bond counsel and our city attorney on how what we can do with the remaining money, since fortunately, most of the bids, other than the pedestrian bridge installation, came in well under bid.
Okay. That was the only,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, yeah, we're looking at that. As Rick said, we saved quite a bit of money under the anticipated amount for the water and sewer line project and also for the realignment project. And we're still hopeful that this will be a TxDOT project, the Cedar Trail culverts, because that's what it was intended to be. And the money that we took out on the C of Os, as I recall, was specifically for channel improvement. This project here, if it's awarded, that would include everything. And I don't think that's going to be something that we'll be saddled with. I think that's still going to be a TxDOT project. Okay, Cynthia, any follow-up?
No, I don't have
Bert, any follow-up? Ed, anything? No. You're good? Okay, then we will call for the question, and yes vote here would to approve our submittal of these grant applications to the Texas Division of Emergency Management, and Josh is going to hand carry these up there on Monday, and maybe Susan will go along, and they're going to actually shake hands with these people and smile at them, and that might give us a little extra credit on the scoring. So we're going to do everything we can to get what we can. So again, a yes vote or an aye vote will approve this. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries, and we will take it to the next step. Okay, next up, we have a resolution that we put together to go to the governor, lieutenant governor, and quite a few of the legislators that are involved in some of the issues that are going before the special session and really backed by the governor that affect the well-being of municipalities statewide. Large and small cities will be affected by things like the revenue cap, the tree ordinance limitations, the expenditure limitations. The governor and the legislators don't seem to think that we as city councils can handle our own money, so they're looking to limit our ability to take on debt and to do our own budgeting. And we were working on some specific language to send a letter up there, and then decided to do a resolution, which was sort of prompted by Cynthia when she sent in a couple of questions, and it seemed like a good idea. So we put this into a form here. And just for your information, at the last Greater Bear County Council of Cities meeting that I attended a couple of weeks ago, we brought up this same thing, and we're going to be writing a resolution for the GBCCC to basically be addressing these same things in a resolution. So it's important to cities. Hopefully you guys read it. It covers a lot of specific items, and I'd like to hear your comments on it, and then we'll go from there. So this is discussion and action to approve the resolution. So if I can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action.
Mr. Mayor, I move to discuss and take action on item number 7 as written.
We have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Second from Buys. So Cynthia, It's your motion?
Yes, I have been really concerned about this special session going on and them trying to take so much power away from the municipalities, as if we're the problem with taxes. And we all know that we're not. It's property taxes, it's the school districts that are causing all of that. I think, I read through the resolution. It does cover a lot, but it needed to, because there's a lot of things that they're trying to take away from us. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Bert?
Okay. I agree with Councilmember Massey. I like the fact that it's all been everything's been put in one resolution. Hopefully they'll read it down there, up there in Austin. The only question I had, other than that, or the other comment, was the Senate Business and Commerce Committee already met. Do we need to get this resolution up there ASAP, or?
Yes, that's our intent.
You need to get up there as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the only other thing I had. And whoever did the work on it, thank you also.
Ed?
I agree that, I think this is a great thing that you guys have worked on and are promoting. It makes total sense. Less or more governance at a higher level on municipalities is unwarranted in my book. Thank you.
Alex?
I concur. I think many of these are pretty short-sighted, and it's going to actually hurt the citizens in the long run if they go through. They're doing it just for publicity, but in the end, it's not going to be beneficial to the citizens. So I completely agree. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, there are some quotes from the governor specifically toward the city governments being incapable of running their local governments. And I don't know if it's in this one. If it's not, I'll make sure that Grace sends it out to you guys, just so that you can read his comments. And most of this information is coming to us from TML, because they're working very hard on these also. Okay, any other discussion required? Then we'll call the question to approve this resolution and send it on to those who need to receive it. And we will start that process tomorrow once it's approved. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries, and we will make sure this starts getting out tomorrow. Okay, next up, we have a discussion and action to approve submission of resolutions for consideration at the Texas Municipal League's 2017 Annual Conference in Houston, and they've asked for cities to supply ideas for them to support. So this is the first step for us, and we will probably have one or two more, but these were the first three that we felt were important. And I don't know if you've had a chance to read them, but Rick, would you just give a quick summary of what each one is for?
Yes, sir. As the mayor said, we did draft three separate resolutions. Two of the resolutions are very similar in what they're trying to do. One is a little bit different. One of the first resolutions is asking TML, and the process, by the way, is this goes to the annual conference, to the resolutions committee, and the resolutions committee, whatever they vote on in agreement with what cities are submitting, essentially that is their legislative agenda for the next 2 years. So if their legislative body says, we approve this, they will either seek, let me go back here. They will seek introduction and passage, which means they will draft the legislation and they will try to get it passed. They will support legislation, they can oppose legislation, or they can take no position on something. All three of these resolutions are trying to get them to seek introduction and passage. The first one, and I think it's relatively self-explanatory, it says, seeking introduction and passage of a bill expressly authorizing any municipality within the state of Texas to regulate and enforce building codes, including related permitting, plan reviews, inspections, and the collection of fees for the same within its extraterritorial jurisdiction. That's obviously a very broad statement, but it is related to some of the issues that we've had within our ETJ and building regulations. The second resolution that is proposed is to expand the applicability of Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 43 Municipal Annexation, Subchapter F, Limited Purpose Annexation. Essentially, limited purpose annexation is only available to home rule municipalities that are over 225,000 inhabitants. First off, I think that the 225 is completely arbitrary. But it does only apply to home rule and anything that's over 225. So what this would do would be to request that it apply to all municipalities within the state of Texas, whether they're general law or home rule. The other thing that limited purpose annexation does is it does allow municipalities currently on the books to apply planning, zoning, health, and safety ordinances, including building codes, permitting, and related fees in the annexed areas. So as you can see, I said it was very similar to the first resolution that we drafted. That is, so what we're trying to do is if we can't get one way, we're trying to get one the other way. I'm sure there's many considerations with regard to limited purpose annexation and how home rule municipalities annex and how we would apply that to general law municipalities, but that is, again, the first step to try to get the resolutions committee to look into this matter. The last resolution that we are recommending approval of is to seek introduction and passage of a bill eliminating reauthorization provisions for the collection and use of street maintenance sales tax. Right now, we are restricted by a 4-year period where that tax is in effect. Other cities, they're basically bracketed portions of the local government code, can go up to 8 years, and some, specifically the city of Leon Valley, can go up to 10 years. I think they are actually the ones that drafted that or tried to get the 10-year rule into effect. But for the vast majority of cities out there, it's 4 years and you have to reauthorize it. And so what this would do would essentially eliminate the reauthorization provisions and make it a permanent addition to our sales and use tax. For us, that's significant because street maintenance is quickly becoming one of the largest parts of our budget other than emergency services. And so we could stand to utilize that money for a longer period of time than 4 years. The other thing that this would do would be to allow municipalities to reimburse themselves for the actual election that authorizes the street maintenance sales tax. I think when we did it, it was several $1,000s, maybe $5,000, something like that. And so for smaller communities, that's a lot of money. And it would be nice for us to be able to reimburse ourselves for that.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, and when Rick says reauthorization every 4 years, as you might recall from when we did this initially, that takes an election. We have to actually resubmit everything and have an election every 4 years. So the thought process here was, first of all, I think Rick said we would be able to be reimbursed. Any city who does this would be able to be reimbursed for their initial election out of street maintenance funds. And then there would not be a need for any other elections once one is implemented. The city would be able to do away with it, but rarely, I would think, would a city want to do away with that special fund for street maintenance if they didn't have to. And the special purpose annexation is something that I learned about at a workshop at TML conference a couple of years ago. And then when basically I think Rick made it fairly clear, without annexing a piece of property or a portion of your ETJ, it does give you the ability to enforce, as he said, our codes and ordinances. And when we checked on it, we found that caveat of it has to be a home rule city of over 225,000. So somebody snuck that into the legislature at some point in time, and we felt it was pretty discriminatory and felt like any city with ETJ should be able to have that prerogative, not go through the annexation process, so you would not be getting property tax revenue, but you would be able to enforce your codes and issue building permits and do inspections and those type of things. And that's the limited purpose annexation. Okay, so if you could, we'll have a motion and a second to open this for discussion.
Mayor, I make a motion we discuss, take action on 8.
We have a motion from Bice.
I'll
Do we have
second
a
that.
You did? We have a motion from Buys and a second from Blue. So Bert, it's your motion?
It's very simple. All these three resolutions are no-brainers. This is stuff that we're going to ask for. I'm not real sure we're going to get anything out of it, but it needs to be done. Like I said, they're no-brainers.
Yeah, just to add something else, I agree, but this is the first step in the process. And I will say, having served on the legislative committee up at TML for several years, they really, it takes a lot for them to seek the introduction and passage of a bill. They're more inclined to look for support, oppose, or take no position. And as Rick says, this goes to their resolution committee at the conference, but then later next year or the following year before the session starts, they will have a legislative committee meeting in Austin, and at that point, they will have all of the bills anticipated to go before the legislature, and then the committee, which is a big committee, votes to either support or oppose or take no action. Take no action is the one they like best. They follow it along, and they'll do what they need to do to keep us informed, but they do have limited funds, and that's how that works. So anyway, like I say, these are three hopefuls, and we'll go from there. Okay, Alex, you're next.
I don't really have any comments other than I think it's a great idea. We be cautiously optimistic.
Ed, anything?
No, I think they're all good, three of them are all good resolutions. I had a quick question. On the third resolution, when it talks about the taxing on a 4, 8, or 10 bracketed year basis, who determines that? The committee, or is it committee then refer the recommendation to the state comptroller?
You're talking about the street maintenance tax?
Yes.
I don't know where that is. Is that in the code? You said Leon Valley has a 10-year.
Oh, it's in the code. Yes,
Is
the
it?
code.
It's in the local government code.
Okay. That makes
Typically, in looking at all of the cities that have done this, it's 4 years. How Leon Valley got 10, I don't know. Anything else?
No, thanks.
Cynthia?
So when we voted on it this the first time, we had the 4-year period as part of the,
Yes,
The
it's
law
set
or
up
the
as a
ordinance.
4-year.
but
right.
I'm trying to figure out why we did that if we could have gotten them to 10 years.
You couldn't have gotten up to 10, because it's bracketed in the sense that it says if you're a city of such and such size within a county of such,
Yeah,
so
we did everything we could,
Yeah.
and 10, 4 was all we could get.
Okay, I got you.
That's what bothered me about it from the time we did it, and why Rick and I have talked about proposing somehow, we were gonna go up to Austin ourselves and fight for it, and we figured, hey, we'll see if TML will pitch in and help us out on it, and other cities will at the same time.
Okay. That's it.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, then we'll call the question. All in favor of approving and sending these resolutions forward, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have discussion of an action to approve the issuance of a purchase order to RX Technologies and Network Alliance for upgrades on our phone system. So that being said, we'll ask for a motion and a second to open discussion and take action.
Mayor, I'll make a motion we discuss, take action on 9.
I have a motion from Buys. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Villanueva. Rick had sent you out a summary of exactly what's going on with this, but if you have any questions, we're here to certainly help you. So Bert, you're first up.
Well, I've looked through all the numbers and everything. I guess my only question would be, is this to upgrade the phones in the whole municipal complex? Fire, police, dispatch,
This
and City Hall?
upgrades the back end of the system.
Yeah.
All of the existing phones and everything that we have can remain in place. This just, essentially, we're replacing boxes that look like computers in our server room here. And the reason that we're doing that is it's just, Cisco is very good, just like Apple, of making things end of life. And so they no longer support them, they no longer offer warranties. And so since we have emergency services here, if one of those boxes goes down, they won't help us fix it, and they won't send replacement parts. So it's kind of like old refrigerators. They used to last 50 years, and now they only last 5. So the reason that we're bringing this before council is because they are offering discounts. Again, on the agenda item request form, licenses, server hardware, SmartNet, and 433.1 routers are all at a discount, and that's because this is July 31st is the end of Cisco's fiscal year, and all of the salesmen are trying to make their quotas, and so they're offering deep discounts. So if we issue a purchase order by tomorrow, it says the 31st, but if y'all approve this, I'll issue the PO tomorrow. Then we are able to get the $45,802 price tag rather than in excess of $55,000 that it would have cost without it. They did agree, or Network Alliance did agree, that if we issue the PO, they will send the equipment here in September, and then we can pay for it in October, which means you'll see, if y'all approve this, you'll see this line item within the proposed budget on the 11th.
I know this is kind of a small thing to ask, but when we get a phone call from City Hall, is it going to fix the 695-5933? Because it's always, no matter who calls, it seems that's the only number that comes up.
Yeah,
I'd rather know who's calling me.
No, the caller ID is on my list of things to do. I just haven't
Is
gotten
that part
there
of
yet.
this? Is this going to cost $45,000 to fix that?
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's something that we can fix already. We just haven't done it yet.
Oh, okay, all right.
We kind of have kept that around so to keep the mystery in who's calling.
Okay, yes, that's what it is. It's a mystery when I get a phone
It
call.
is, it
Okay,
is.
that's all I had, Mayor.
Ed,
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Alex?
I think Bert just wants to know if you're calling from your office, so he doesn't answer it.
That's it. You got that right.
The only question I had was, is there any salvage value to what we already have now?
There is salvage value to it. We can sell it on the open market, which we will. RX Technology, our provider, may give us some credit on future bills for that equipment, but we'll have to see what the actual market value is for that.
And again, we're keeping all the phones that we have. This is just the support network and the support equipment that goes behind it. Cynthia, anything? No. Okay, no other discussion being desired. We'll call the question on item number 9 to approve the issuance of a purchase order for this equipment for our phone system. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 9 is approved. That takes us to item number 10, which is our closed session. And our closed session tonight is in accordance with Texas Government Code 551.071, consultations with attorney. In addition to the matters listed below, any matters scheduled for open session may be discussed in closed session as appropriate and authorized by law. And again, this is consultation with attorney regarding Jerry Arredondo versus City of Helotes, Texas, and Board of Adjustment of the City of Helotes of Texas. And we're going to go into a closed session at 7:43. Hopefully, we won't be in there too long, and we may or may not be taking action once we get out, but that will be our prerogative, or council's prerogative, once we're back in session. So we'll see you guys in a little while. Convene our...
I'm sorry.
We will reconvene our meeting again at 8:42, and we were in closed session in accordance with Texas Government Code 551.071, consultations with attorney, and that was in regards to Jerry Arredondo versus City of Helotes, Texas, and Board of Adjustments of the City of Helotes, Texas. No action was taken, and we move on then to item number 11, which allows us to take action and to approve matters that were discussed in the closed session. And so I would ask, and the decision we're looking for is at this point, which law firm to retain to go forward with this, and so I would ask for a motion from one of the council members as to which law firm to help us go into the future on this case.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to retain our city attorney, Davidson, Troilo, Ream, and Garza, to handle the Arredondo lawsuit as directed.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Massey, a second from Villanueva, to retain our city attorney, Frank Garza, and his firm to go ahead and continue with this case on into the future as directed by council. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion being requested. We'll call the question. All in favor of approving city attorneys to proceed with this case, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Habib, Clarissa, we appreciate all the efforts that you made on our behalf through TML, but we're going to go with our city attorney on this.
You're in good hands. You are in good hands.
Okay, appreciate it. And again, thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Mayor.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
considering us.
Okay.
Good night, Habib.
And as it goes, that is our last item of business. So if there are no objections, we will adjourn this meeting. Any objections? No objections are being heard. We are going to adjourn at 8:45.